Deadlock as a new player can be very overwhelming, especially if it's your first ever MOBA. There's just so much to keep in mind as you are playing with all of the items, different ways of moving around the map, actually just aiming and playing the game in general, and most importantly, on what character to be playing. Now that choice comes before you even load into your first ever game of Deadlock. The first screen you're gonna see is the screen of all the heroes, and you have to pick a few that you are interested in playing. But if you've never played before, how do you know which character you'd like? So with this video, I'm going to be going over a few heroes that I think are great for new players. These are going to be very easy to play heroes, while also they still have a very big impact on the game. So you can help, carry your team or contribute a ton of utility in the process. And overall, it's going to make your life much easier just simply learning the game, because you have a fairly easy character to play around, and you don't have to think about the mechanics of that character too much. You can focus on the MOBA aspect and actually playing the game. We're going to be going over how these characters actually work and just general information about them. Also, I have a build for each of them that I recommend that you all try out, so I'll have build codes for those as well if you guys are interested in trying them out in your first ever games. So if you find this video helpful, make sure you are subscribed for future Deadlock content. Also, make sure to stop on by over on Twitch. I'm happy to answer any questions you have over there. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this video. The first character I recommend to new players would be Seven. He's been a long-time staple here in Deadlock. Back in the day, he used to be one of the strongest characters, and overall, he's just been a very consistent option. I think right now people are sleeping on Seven. I feel like he's received a lot of nerfs over time because, like I said, he was the strongest, like one of the strongest a very long time ago. So obviously he's been toned back to balance him out. And I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about him or just kind of write him off since they see, minus numbers in patch notes. And overall, I still think he's an extremely strong choice. He's not just beginner friendly. He's also still very strong. You can drastically swing games as this character. There's a lot of different ways you can play him with utility on like stun builds, or you can go, full ult win condition builds towards endgame, or a little bit of a hybrid setup where you can just be a slayer throughout the entire game while also still being able to get those big ults at endgame. And that's preferably how I like to play him. That's basically where I'm at, just because I'm pretty confident in my gunning skills, so I like to be able to kill people outside of my ult while still having that major damage within ults to kind of win the big team fights throughout the game. Let's quickly take a look at his abilities themselves, but before we do that, let's take a look at his weapon. So his weapon is just a burst fire rifle. It's pretty simple, nothing too crazy. There's just a little bit of recoil, like I'm not moving my mouse at all, and it just goes up just that hair there. But overall, it's a fairly decent weapon. It's great to get, gun investment itself to actually increase the weapon damage, but also we're going to want to be increasing our spirit power for all of his abilities. Now, his first ability is our lightning ball. This is exactly what it sounds like. You're just going to throw a ball out that extends forward, and when it hits something, it is going to slow down. So if you saw right there, as it was hitting the target dummy, it was going very slow and passing through them, and eventually once it did, it continued its speed. We can see that a little bit clearer if I aim up a little bit more. So it's slow, and then boom, it's going to continue down the way. And this is with no upgrades, no items or anything, and that's a fairly decent sized ball. With expansion, greater expansion, the range bonuses and upgrades on this, you can get this thing quite large. You can also have charges of it. So the first upgrade is going to give you 2. So something like extra charge, rapid recharge for more charges of this. It's going to allow you to spam it much more, which is great for farming and extra damage. So as we can see, the size difference now with it maxed out, this is absolutely no range upgrades, and this is still like a good chunk of a lane. So it's very easy to hit your targets with this, especially when you combine it with Seven's second ability. That is static charge. You essentially put a delayed stun on an enemy. After 3.5 seconds, them and anybody in the radius around them is going to get stunned. So right now I do have it on instacast, so that's why you can see the actual icon here. Yours might be different, where you need to activate the ability and then confirm your target before putting it on, but I have mine on instacast. So if I press the button, this is the radius around the target that will get stunned along with the target themselves. And as we upgrade it, we can get cooldown, its radius bigger, and the stun duration longer. So as you can see, that's once again no range upgrades except for the ability itself, and that's a very good sized area, so you can disrupt the enemy team at some very inopportune times. If they get that static charge on them, they're going to need some way of countering it with an item, or just take themselves out of the fight for a few seconds and take the stun and then get back into it, maybe giving your team the advantage. So some people will, focus on some cooldowns and radius for this and just go for big stun builds. Now you combine this with the lightning ball, where you put this on them, and the moment they get stunned, you can throw the lightning ball on them. Now they have no choice, because they're stuck there in the stun, to be taking a ton of extra damage from your lightning ball. And this whole time you can be shooting them with your gun. Now you can supercharge your gun with his third ability, Power Surge. You're going to power up your weapon with a shock effect. This basically gives you Tesla bullets, and as you get your spirit power higher, it's going to scale the damage up and up. There's a 10-meter base jump radius with 3 max jumps, and as we upgrade it, we can get cooldown, also lowering the enemy's spirit resistance, which is great for damage, one of the best ways of getting damage in the game. And then overall just increasing its base damage and improving its spirit scaling, while also giving it more max jumps. So personally, this is the very first of the 4 abilities that I max out in this build, and this offers us a ton of extra damage. So when we pop this, he's going to be charged up, and now as you can see, I'm doing gun damage and spirit damage at the same time. And if I was to shoot like a camp or something, this is going to chain to all the nearby enemies and give us passive clear there. And you can combine all of this together with a stun, charge up your gun, throw the ball down, and just lay into them while they can't do anything. So that's a great little combo there for 7. And now his ultimate, Storm Cloud. This is going to be great for team fights, denying big areas around objectives. If you need to buy time for your team, this is a great way of doing so. And just damaging the entire enemy team, while also offering them very little ways of dealing with you besides just, knockdown items. So they have to kind of buy against you. And then also you can buy against that to make sure you get some time in your ultimate and lock down an area. So what this is going to do is you're going to turn yourself basically into a little ball. You're going to sit there and float. You're going to get a radius that expands out over the first, second or two. And you're just constantly going to be damaging anything within line of sight in that entire area. Once again, that's no upgrades, no range bonuses. That's how big you can get the area. So you can lock down entire points with this. And then you also get this lightning strike, if you saw that HUD on my screen there. So what it's going to allow you to do is place 1 lightning strike that's going to knock an enemy in the air. So if you do this and somebody was to run behind cover or whatever and you're not damaging anymore, you can now cast this lightning strike on them for extra damage, and it's going to knock them up out of that area and allow you to damage them even more. So you only get to do that once, so pick your target wisely there. And it just overall is a nice little bonus to the ultimate, makes it more interactive. With its upgrades, you can get bullet resist while you're channeling it. This makes you much tankier as you're sitting there floating, because you can't really defend yourself besides just being in there and the bubble dealing damage. The second upgrade is going to give you more channel time, a ton of extra channel time, and also increase its radius. So if we do this now, we can see how much further we went out. We were going to about like here before. Now we're all the way out there. And it's going to give us a much longer channel time. We're still in it here. We would have been out a while ago. Now, its final upgrade is going to allow you to get more damage on it and allows movement control. This is such a big bonus. So now, before I was locked to that point, now I can just straight up move around wherever I need to go. I can fly up if I need to go higher, down, lower, whatever I need to do to get into an optimal range for the enemies, I can do so now. So this is a fantastic option for the actual ability and the setup within the build. This is one of the other things that we're going to be trying to max out as quick as possible after our power surge. Now, this is the build that I personally play when I'm playing 7. I'll have the code for it down in the description if you're interested in trying it out. I have everything. If there's an imbue, it has the suggestions and everything in there for you, so you don't really need to think about where everything needs to go. And essentially, this is like roughly what you're looking for at end game by the end of the game if you have enough money. Sometimes games will be quicker, you won't be able to get all of it. Sometimes it'll be longer and you can make a few changes, but ideally this is roughly what you're going for. You can change some things out here and there with this setup. With this, I'm really trying to focus on just my overall general play with 7 with power surge, getting some stuns and lightning ball damage in. So outside of my ult, I can still kill enemies very quickly, but I still have stuff like unstoppable for when I am in my ult and I need those big team fight wins. I can make sure to do so. So when you are using unstoppable, You're going to want to use it right before you ult. You can't actually pop it once you're in your ult. So if you jump up in the air, pop unstoppable, then go in here, you get that 5.5 seconds of guaranteed. Nobody can hit you out of this, and they're forced to retreat or take that damage for 5.5 seconds before they can actually do something about it. And since we have range, they're forced so far back, it'd be hard for them to counter you. So you're basically able to stay in that ult, especially if you are starting out and you're in the lower ranks. People aren't going to be able to counter you as well. So overall, I've been really enjoying this setup. Once you get also Mercurial Magnum, you're going to be doing a ton of extra damage. So, you know, you put your stun on an enemy, your power surge, you throw your ball, you're going to be getting the spirit damage from your power surge, but also your bullets are just going to be doing extra spirit damage because of Mercurial Magnum until you reload. So it's a great way of getting a ton of extra damage. If you utilize Fleet Foot, if you want to get a little bit fancy and you're sliding to shoot a lot, since you all have all that movement speed, you can keep your magazine for much longer and keep that bonus spirit power that Magnum gives you. It's a great way of just offering a ton of extra damage until you can pop it again with another lightning ball and just keep that bonus damage active at all times. Now, when I first got started in Deadlock a year and a half ago, I tried a couple different characters at first and wasn't really having great success. It was my first MOBA, so I was still trying to learn a lot in the process. And the character that I actually ended up having the best success with early on was Warden. This character is incredibly simple. So if you just like shooting, getting a ton of free kills because of one of your abilities, and it also being able to sustain yourself really well, you're very tanky with this character. This is going to be great for you. He is very, very strong right now. He actually just received some nerfs, and he's still incredibly powerful. His gun is so strong when built correctly, and he's, once again, seriously, one of the easiest characters to play in the entire game. So if you're seriously, truly overwhelmed, and you want the easiest thing possible, Warden is definitely going to be the one for you. His first ability, Alchemical Flask, is super, super simple. You're just going to be throwing a flask. It's essentially just like a little grenade, and it's going to deal damage, reduce the movement speed, and weapon damage of an enemy. So it's great for 1v1ing another gun hero. And not to mention, its upgrades are very strong. So early on in lane, with its first upgrade, you can hit an enemy and make them lose 1 stamina. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you combine it with this third ability, which we'll get to here in a moment, it ends up being very powerful. So just to see it in action, you literally just press it, and you throw a flask that just does a little burst. It's seriously just like a little grenade, and it offers a little bit of utility here and there with its upgrades. So you get the 1 stamina loss, extra damage and radius, and then minus cooldown for it, so you can throw it more often. And you can also reduce the fire rate on enemies, so it makes it even better of a dueling tool against an M1 hero. Now, its second ability, Willpower, this is just going to give you a barrier and bonus movement speed. So you just press it, you get a little bit of extra temporary health, essentially, and you're able to move a bit quicker. So if you need to chase somebody down, you can use this. If you need to be a little bit more tanky for a moment, you know you're going to take some damage, pop Willpower, and you're good to go. With its upgrades, you can give yourself even more movement speed from 15 to 35%, reduce its cooldown, and now give it more health, and it's going to scale with spirit power. So if you end up having some spirit items, you're going to get that barrier even larger than this 275 without any items. Now, his third ability is one of the strongest, especially for new players, because a lot of people, you know, don't have the movement down to get out of it as easy or to counter it in any way. And that is Binding Word. You're going to curse an enemy hero if they don't move away from that area. So wherever you cast it on an enemy, that's now going to be the central area of the circle, and they have to move within a radius to get outside of it. So if we proc it here, it's going to put this cage. Here you can see the radius of it, so where they have to move to. And if they don't, you notice, it caught them, and they were immobilized for a duration. This is amazing for getting free kills, because if you combine this with Alchemical Flask, you reduce their stamina by 1. They now might not have any stamina whatsoever. So if they don't have great movement speed or anything like that, they're going to get caught into R3, which is going to make them stand perfectly still. And you can just lay in shooting with a ton of damage out of this gun. This gun is very, very powerful. The thing that balances it is its incredibly slow rate of fire that you see here. And it's something we're going to be addressing within the build. It allows us to do insane DPS. With the upgrades to Binding Word, we can make them immobilized for an extra second, reduce its cooldown so we can spam it more often, And then also you're going to be dealing 20% more bullet damage to enemy heroes trapped in it for 6 seconds. So not just while they're in it, even once they break out, you're still going to be doing a bit more damage with your gun. So this is a great way of getting free picks on enemies, especially those who don't know how to counter this stuff. Now his ultimate, Last Stand, you're going to sit there, you're just going to completely still for 2 seconds. And then eventually you're going to get this cone in front of you that's going to be damaging enemies and giving you health while you're actually hitting them. So very easy just to show you guys first. So here's the cone. Be damaging enemies. It's great free extra damage, but also you're going to be getting health in the process. So if I go ahead and give myself low health, once I'm actually in this ult, you can see it's going to be healing me quite a bit. Even with no items, you're going to get a ton of extra health back. If there was more enemies in here, we'd be able to get even more health. So once again, now this is with 3 enemies. You can see where this starts to get really crazy in team fights with your sustain, and that whole time you can just W key at them, holding fire and dealing a ton of damage. With its upgrades, you can increase the radius of it, so you have a much bigger area of actually damaging and getting health from enemies. You can increase its damage and reduce its cooldown with its second upgrade. And then the final one is you get a ton of bullet and spirit resistance, 50% of each, and an extra 2.5 seconds on its duration. This is great for just going ultimate tank mode. You're able to just sit there so well and just take so much damage for your team while also dealing a ton of damage to the enemies. So overall, none of these are complicated in any way, shape, or form. Last Stand is probably the most complicated just because you have to stand there and charge it up for 2.5 seconds first. So if you do get stunned while you're charging it up, it's going to cancel it. But once it's procced, it's actually most things you're going to be able to just keep it going. Even if you did get stunned or whatever, you're still going to have that cone passively damaging for you and helping you get through that CC. For the Warden build that I like to run is essentially this setup. We're focusing on our gun carry, just maximizing our damage output, while also making it very easy to get picks. These picks are obviously gonna take somebody out of a potential fight. And also, if you get solo picks, you're gonna get a ton of souls, and you're gonna need souls to carry as Warden. Not a ton. It's only, for this full entire setup, 43,000, which is very obtainable by the end game. And this is gonna allow you to just carry so hard, especially since we are using Glass Cannon in this build. Glass Cannon is an item that gives you a ton of extra weapon damage, but reduces your max health. But the really big thing with Glass Cannon is when you get a hero kill, you're going to get a permanent fire rate increase up to 8 stacks. But if you do die, you're going to lose 1 stack. But if you're carrying on this character, you're not really going to be dying. You're going to be able to keep this up at max stacks or near max stacks. And this is going to allow us to deal just so much damage. Because like I said earlier, the thing that balances this weapon is its slow rate of fire. So if you notice something in this build, we have Swift Strikers, increases our fire rate. Active reload for when we do the perfect reload here. If you press reload in that little green part, you get even more fire rate. You get kinetic dash here. It's going to allow us to get free reloads and overflowing our magazine, and also gives us more fire rate. So then we also then go into Spell Slinger. So whenever you use abilities or items, it can give you a stacking fire rate bonus and also reduces the reload time for yourself. So if we, spam a few abilities here, pop out all of these, we now get some pretty decent fire rate. You combine all this stuff together, boom, we get really good fire rate. Once again, now we get Vampiric Burst. It's going to give us bullet lifesteal. Also, it's going to refill our ammo so we can just keep shooting and give us another 34% fire rate. So if you're shooting, you get into a pinch, you need health, or if you really need to burst somebody down, you press your Vampiric Burst, and now we're shooting really, really fast. And this is all with 0 stacks of Glass Cannon. Once you get Glass Cannon stacked up, that's where you're going to be getting some insane fire rate. So let me show you that really quick. So now I have 8 stacks of Glass Cannon, and without doing any other fire rate bonuses, this is literally just standing here and the passive bonuses from Swift Striker and our Glass Cannon. You can see how crazy our fire rate is now. So when we combine everything, we do like a quick little jump, pop some abilities out, whatever. You can see how fast we are shooting, and just this one mag did 12,000 damage. You can just wipe the whole enemy team in 1-2 magazines with this. you're going to have very little downtime of shooting because of Spell Slinger, Vampiric Burst, Kinetic Dash. Overall, you're just constantly just going to be a bullet hose and really abusing the thing that's supposed to balance this gun, and it ends up being why this is so powerful. And then also, if you notice, we have knockdown. This is great, so if anybody's flying in the air, so we just talked about 7. If there's a 7 ulting, you can knock them down and stop that ult for free, but also you can use this to get picks with your Binding Word and just overall really good burst damage. So if there's a lone hero, you can end up throwing your knockdown out, you wait like a second, then throw your Binding Word. They're basically guaranteed to get trapped in that unless they have a way of getting rid of your knockdown. So if they have Dispel Magic, that's a great way of them to get out. Or, you know, if they're kit in general from their hero. But a lot of the times you're able to get just free kills here, which is going to be able to get you free glass cannon stacks and a ton of extra souls. So this is just a great way. And once again, especially in lower ranks when people don't know how to counter this stuff, you can get a ton of free kills there. You just do that and you can burst them down in just a couple seconds. Now, one thing to note is when they are in this mode, they can still parry. So when they're locked up like this, don't walk up to them and heavy punch them. They can parry you and you're just not going to get the kill. So I would just recommend sitting at a safe distance and shooting instead of going and doing any sort of punching. Next hero I recommend is going to end up being Wraith. Wraith is really, really good at picking off single enemies, while also being very good at the objective game. She's very good at being by herself, pushing a split side lane and potentially taking a walker or whatever other objective that you need. She is very good at it just because of her damage. She can shoot for a very long time with her gun. She gets hybrid damage with her gun and her cards. And overall, she has a ton of escapability of getting out of those scenarios with her basically teleport. And there's a lot of really good things she can do to make sure she gets that objective and just can help out the team without actually being in the team fights. She can do very well in team fights for sure. You can boost your allies' fire rate and all sorts of stuff once we get into the abilities. But overall, she's just super, super simple and is great if you have just, if you've watched any sort of like beginner guides on Deadlock and know just a rough idea of stuff to do. She is great at carrying games just because of that objective factor that she has. Her gun, super, super simple. Literally just a Tommy gun. It just shoots. If you noticed, I have a little pop-up above my head. That is going to be Wraith's first ability, Card Trick. So when you deal damage, you're going to get cards that allow you to throw them and deal extra damage. And they're going to track to your crosshairs. So you can actually hit people very easily with these. So if I throw this, it's going that way, but I can still turn it around and hit these targets. If that wasn't there, I'd be able to flip it around and, you know, hit whoever I need. If they go behind a wall, you can let the card pass the wall, then turn your crosshair towards the wall that they're on. It's going to loop around and hit them. So it's really good at hitting enemies who are behind cover. And if you just sit there, hold your fire button and throw your cards as you get them, you get a ton of damage from both. And it's a great way of not allowing the enemies to counter you. Like if they just had bullet resistance and you were just doing gun, they'd be able to counter you pretty well. But since you are doing really good spirit damage, also, they're going to be still taking quite a bit, and it's going to be harder for them to counter you. They're going to have to cover both gun and spirit resistances. But Card Trick, going back to it, its upgrades allow you to get an extra charge with its first one, extra damage, and then also you can get them quicker and apply a slow with them. So this is really good to get early on, because now, if you notice, when I shoot, I'm going to be getting these cards very quickly. I'm going to empty it real fast. You know, in just a few bullets, I can get my first one. So once you get fire rate and all of that, you can just absolutely spam these cards. It's a great way of just dealing a ton of extra damage and making your, you know, total damage per mag much, much higher. Your second ability is Project Mine. This is going to teleport to a target location. You can get extra range on here, a barrier when you come out of it that scales with spirit power and reduces cooldowns. This is amazing escapability. This is going to be so crucial. So you take out a walker, good chance a lot of their team is going to be coming to rotate to you. This is going to allow you to teleport so far in basically an instant and give you a very hefty overshield once you're out of it. This is amazing for getting out of those situations. It makes it why she's so good at getting those objectives. Wraith's third ability is full auto. This is going to boost your fire rate, and your nearby allies are going to also receive a fire rate bonus at half. So the first upgrade, you're going to reduce its cooldown. Also gives you spirit damage per bullet fired while it's active. And then the final upgrade gives you bullet and spirit lifesteal and increased scaling on spirit damage per bullet, which is really nice. This is great, just passive damage that you can get. So this is also going to play into your one and allow you to get these even faster. So if we pop this, just going to do a radius, you can see what it's boosting, and we get that extra fire rate. You can throw more cards and deal extra damage while it's active with that spirit damage. It's not a ton, but it does add up over time, like 20% or so, 20-30%, somewhere in there. But overall, a really good third ability. Finally, her ultimate is telekinesis. This is on a very short cooldown at a base 110 seconds. And what this will allow you to do is throw an enemy into the air and slam them to the ground, stunning them. And then they're also silenced and disarmed for a duration after. So this is really good in 1v1 scenarios or just taking an enemy out of a fight so you can just freely kill them. So if you pop this, I'm going to throw this ball. It's going to track them. This is going to follow them basically anywhere. Enemies can run from this and get to, you know, safety. If they have more mobility than you, then they can get behind cover and your ultimate's not going to do that much. So it is definitely a lot better to use in close range or on somebody you know can't outrun it. But when you pop it, it's going to travel to them, throw them in the air, slam them on the ground, another silence and disarmed, allowing you to do free damage to them. With upgrades, you can reduce its cooldown even lower to 85 seconds. You can give more duration to the silence and disarm up to 3.5 seconds. And then also you can get telekinesis will bounce to an additional target nearby. So if we pop this, boom, it's now going to lift up those two enemies for us, which is great for just extra crowd control. This is going to be a lot better towards endgame in the big team fights. Build that I like to run on Wraith is just a great hybrid damage setup with both our gun and our spirit damage and our cards. As we can see, we are running things like intensifying magazine, gives us more max ammo so we can shoot longer. It also increases our weapon damage the longer we're firing. It's just a great overall item, and it's very cheap at 1,600. Otherwise, we're going to be focusing on our card tricks with like rapid recharge. We can combine this with bullet resist shredder. This way, any of the spirit damage we do is going to reduce their bullet resistance, allowing our bullets to deal more damage. And we can combine this with capacitor. This is the upgrade for Tesla bullets, allowing us to deal a lot of damage just for free, and it also makes farming really fast. So Wraith is a really, really good farmer. In here, we can farm these very quickly. That's without using any abilities, and I don't have any like upgrades. I'm not full boon. I'm level 1 right now, so you'll be farming much quicker than that as the game goes on. And then otherwise, we're going to be running with capacitor. It gives you the actual active ability. When you use this on an enemy, it's going to throw out a low ball. You prevent them from using stamina, and it's just really good for singling out a target. Say you know, pop your ult, disarm, silence them. Then you can do this. Like, they're going to be pretty messed up for a while, allowing you to deal just a ton of damage to them here as you're spamming out your cards as you are holding down your fire button. Then we also get Vampiric Burst for extra mag size, bullet lifesteal. This is great, just sustain and making sure you can just essentially never stop shooting, and also crippling headshot. Since we are a hybrid setup, reducing their bullet and spirit resistance along with healing reduction is great, and also really good for 1v1s. Hit him in the head. Now you're gonna be doing just a ton of damage per card throw, and god, you can do thousands in a very short amount of time. And combining it all with Mercurial Magnum, every time we're throwing the cards and everything, we're getting that base, you know, spirit damage on our bullets, and making our cards actually do more damage while also giving us fire rate. So overall, really good hybrid setup, very easy to play. And if you notice, there is an empty slot. So if you need defenses, more damage, whatever you need, it is here in this build, whatever you need in that particular game. Now for the final hero that I recommend for a new player is going to end up actually being Ivy. Ivy is a great alternative option to these other characters. These other ones have been more like spirit, hybrid, gun focused setup so far. Basically, we've had one of each, but with this one, this is going to play into more of like a utility support role. Ivy can be built to be like gun or spirit if you want to focus on the first ability for spirit or their gun. Either or you can do, but personally with Ivy, I like to play more of a utility support option, kind of focusing around the ult and actually a few actives. So I really like this one for new players because this is going to get you much more accustomed to using active items. I know just learning the basic 4 is a lot when you're first starting out, but active items are a huge part of Deadlock. So playing a character that makes you get used to actually using these actives is going to be great, especially early on where it doesn't matter if you make mistakes as much. You're going to be able to learn and you're going to be able to progress much quicker than everybody else who's refusing to use actives. Now, Ivy is really, really cool. So the first ability is Kudzu Bomb. Basically a little grenade that puts a damaging field in its wake. So if you select it, you're going to see its circle that you can actually hit people with. You're going to throw it. It's going to burst out and constantly deal damage to enemies in that area. It's a great area of denial. And then as we upgrade it, we can get charges on it, so you can use it multiple times. You can get extra duration on the damaging field and otherwise increasing its damage and its radius even further, like that. And you can just kind of spam them. I have no cooldown on right now, so you can't do it quite that fast, but you can get, you know, put some of them out there, and ends up working out really well for denying area and dealing damage. Especially early on in the game, you can help you clear waves quicker in lane and make sure you keep that lane pressure up. Now, the second ability is more of a support focus thing. This is Watcher's Covenant. You're going to essentially put a tether on a friendly ally, and you're going to be able to get extra fire rate, bullet lifesteal, and give healing to you and that target that you're tethered with. So if this was my teammate here and I proc this, it's going to tether to him. As I shoot, we're going to be getting health. So if I half health myself here, we're getting health, and I can actually transfer some of that to the target that I'm tethered to. Also getting other bonuses like extra fire rate. You can get movement speed bonuses and tether to another friendly, so you can get multiple people in on this train. So it works really well for group sustain and overall a pretty solid ability. Now the third ability is one of Ivy's strongest. This is called Stone Form. You become immune in this stone form. You turn into just like a big gargoyle statue. You're gonna hop into the air, and when you land, you can stun and damage enemies. If I proc this, I'm going to do like a little spin, go up, come down, and then in that area, I get a free stun on anybody who's stuck in it. So this is very strong, especially with the build that I like to run with this. You can decrease its cooldown with the first upgrade, increase its damage, and the duration that they're stunned, so it goes up to 1.25 seconds. And then the other big one at the final is you get 13% of your max health healed whenever you proc this. So once again, if I half health myself, you know, I'm a little low. Proc this really quick, I go through, boom, 163 health just like that, which is really good for our sustain and keeping our fights going. And this is on a fairly low cooldown of 18 seconds once it's, you know, you have the cooldown on there. Obviously even lower once you have cooldown as some items. Now the final ability, the ultimate, is called Airdrop. You can take an ally or not, so when you use it, you can cast on yourself or left click on a friendly and you can actually pick them up. So if I was to cast this on my friendly, I'd fly, and now I can just go around, drag them wherever I need. I can throw them. It's going to give them a barrier and deal some damage when they land. You can pick up friendlies who are like ulting. So if you have a friend who's maybe following some of the stuff that I've said so far in this video, if they're playing Seven can be in his ball ulting, and if you're Ivy, you can pick him up, drag him around, and give him just crazy mobility and annoyance on his ultimate for the enemy team. It's pretty funny. There's some really cool things you can do with that, but otherwise you can also just fly yourself, and then from here you can throw down a bomb that does a little explosion, knocks enemies up. But where this gets really powerful is with its upgrades. So you can give them minus bullet resistance, minus 20% on enemies hit for 8 seconds. You can get barriers and explode radius. And then also the final one, which is a big one, is that it now applies silence on enemies hit for 3 seconds. So also, if you've noticed, while I'm flying around, I can use my abilities. So, you know, you can obviously drop the actual ult bomb itself, but that's not going to kick you out of your ult. You can still fly around. This is a great escape option, but also you can still use your kudzu bombs. So you can combine all of these things into one. So if I'm flying around, and once again, this is going to be silencing enemies, I can throw it on them, throw my kudzu bomb right after it, and stun them. Now they're just stuck, taking all of that damage. They were silenced. There's not really a lot they can do. And overall, you can get this to hit a lot of people with the build that we have set up, which I'm going to show you right now. So once again, this build is going to get you guys accustomed to using your actives. As you can see, we have 3 that we're actually going to be using quite a bit. Vortex Web and Alchemical Fire are what you're going to be using in a quick combo within your ult. Healing Nova, you can only do it every 45 seconds with this build, so it's not as crazy that you're now taking into account another 3 abilities along with your 4. This is just you're in a team fight, you need healing for yourself, whatever, you can proc this and heal yourself and a bunch of friendlies nearby. But basically with this build, what you're going to be doing is there's a team fight, go into your ult, and as you're flying around, what you can do is throw your Alchemical Fire down. This is going to just constantly damage enemies in that area and reduce their bullet resistance, as you can see there. I do have no cooldown on, so it's doing some things that you won't normally see to that extent. But we have something called Spirit Burn, which is going to allow us to deal extra damage. But, so, if we go back into our ult here, you're going to throw your Alchemical Fire, then you can Vortex Web, drop your bomb, kudzu, and stomp. Now, that just looks crazy. It's going to do quite a bit of damage and just completely mess up their entire team, because Vortex Web is going to create this little vacuum that's going to pull enemies in from a huge radius, and it's going to make it so they can't move around as much, which is really good. It's going to apply slowing hacks so they can't use like movement items, so they're kind of stuck there. The whole purpose of this is it groups enemies, and now they're basically stuck there. So now they're forced to sit in that Alchemical Fire pool that's sitting there. Now they're also forced to sit in your Kudzu Bomb that's also sitting there. And then they're silenced. They can't use any other abilities, including their movement abilities. Then you're landing on their head with a huge stun. And from there, you can continue shooting, whatever. But this is basically a giant team fight disruptor. If we remove our bots really quick, let me put, a bunch of enemies down. Pretend this is the enemy team defending their base, walker, whatever. You can see it all kind of in action here in one. So what we're going to be doing, flying over, boom, 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 boom. I didn't even use my Kudzu Bomb there. That was just, there's a lot of ways you can mess this up and it still doesn't even matter. It's because you can do so much damage to targets. It's not really going to be doing that. I show this with no cooldown because I have a Spirit Burn. This is proccing all the time, even though it's only supposed to be every 15 seconds. We can see a little bit more accurate representation of this. So if we go up, I can throw my Alchemical Fire. Boom, boom, boom. Stomp them all. And here we can go in, continue shooting. So to all these enemies in that one combo, you can do 3,000-4,000 damage, which is, you can just straight up kill entire teams with this. And, very worst case, you're going to get them half, 3/4 of the way through their health, allowing you and your team to easily finish them off. It's just a great fight initiator. You can swing team fights so well with this. I know there's a lot that can kind of go into this. So this is the more advanced of the 4 heroes that I recommend. But it's just, once again, super good to get used to this stuff. And even if you mess up some of the buttons, it still doesn't matter that much in terms of dealing a ton of extra damage. So maybe I forget to use my Kudzu Bomb again. Basically, Alchemical Fire, boom. It's only 4 buttons right there, and you can still have a huge effect on the enemies. You notice the Lightning Strike. That's another item we have, is Lightning Scroll. When you deal damage from your ultimate, after a delay, you're going to deal a stun on them. So everybody you hit with that bomb, which is huge radius, they're going to get that stun. So it's just like so much that they can't do about what you're doing to them. Like, it's insane how strong this can actually end up being. Don't be afraid to use these abilities as well, even when your ult is down. Like, your ult is going to be on cooldown after you do that whole combo. You're going to get these back. Like, Alchemical Fire is going to be ready to use again before your ultimate's back. Same thing with our Vortex Web. See, we have a 75-second cooldown. Only 32 seconds here on Vortex Web and 22 in Alchemical Fire. Make sure you continue to use these in fights. If you need to lock down an area, say enemies are pushing a walker, you can throw Alchemical Fire and a Kudzu Bomb in front, making sure all of the enemy troopers that are coming up die, and there's not really anything the enemies can do about it, and that's going to shield your walker, making it so they can't deal as much damage to it, potentially saving the walker. So there's a lot of great ways of playing this build, and it's just overall a great utility option while still being able to deal really good damage. You can drastically swing some team fights. Yeah, those are the 4 heroes that I highly recommend for a new player who's looking for something fairly easy to play just starting out so they can learn the general gist of Deadlock and MOBAs, I think these are just really good options. Obviously, you can play whoever you want, whoever looks the most fun, coolest to you. I highly recommend playing them. This is just for those who are unsure of what to be playing and want somebody else who has 1,000 hours in the game opinion on what they should be trying out. Ivy is something I've been playing a lot recently. I think it's just been so fun doing that Vortex build, so I highly recommend getting good at that. It's a really, really good one. And overall, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up on it. Make sure you consider subscribing for more Deadlock content. Also, make sure to stop by over on Twitch if you have any sort of questions. I know a lot of this was kind of long-winded. I like to explain everything that a new player maybe needs to know. And instead of just leaving you guys guessing, I want you to know exactly what my thought process is so you guys can make the most informed decisions for yourself. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this far. Really do appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one.